everyone, and welcome back to the Bliss Bakery, where you'll get your wholesome slice of life. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jenny.
So, we're back with Jenny. How many episodes have you been on?
Just one. Just
Yeah.
one.
Ego is the enemy.
Yeah, that's right. That was a good one. I got a lot of my friends watch that, actually.
Yeah, I thought it was also very insightful. I had a lot of feedback on that one, being like, yeah, I really resonate with this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Actually, last episode when we caught up, Jenny was just about to start her sabbatical. And since then, it's been 8 months,
I feel
almost
like
10.
10.
It's crazy. Time
Yeah,
flies.
almost a year.
Yeah, so this year has flown by and I thought I'd bring you back so we can actually talk about a sabbatical.
Yeah, I'm a changed person now.
Oh, I'm excited to hear all about it. I feel like we haven't properly caught up on it yet, and you've been through so much. I've been keeping up with your newsletters, which you post every month. And yeah, it's been really interesting hearing all the life lessons and things that you've been up to. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think this is probably the first time I've talked about it properly other than my newsletter, so I'm pretty excited.
Awesome. Before we get started, I guess I will open up our clay.
Yeah, I'm so keen.
We're doing air dry clay trinkets and we'll see if we get to painting them. Hopefully we do.
I'll be in charge of ASMR.
All right. So I think maybe to get started, I want to hear about what led to you making the decision of a sabbatical, which we touched on last time, but let's start from the beginning.
It's funny because I think a lot of people think, I burnt out and I was like desperate for a sabbatical, which I think was like sort of the case. But I actually had a goal to take a year off before I was 30 while I was actually at Atlassian. I don't know if you remember, but there was a period of time where like everyone took sabbaticals at Atlassian. And I don't know if that still happens at the moment, but I just remember seeing so many blog posts where they're just taking like 6 months off, a year off. Actually one of the people that inspired me was actually my manager at the time, who also took a year off.
Who's now my manager?
Who's now her manager. Unfortunately, his sabbatical didn't go as planned because it was during COVID. But I was like, wow, that's really, really awesome. I really want to take a year off, especially before I start a family, which is something that I would like to do, around the 30 mark or earlier or later. But I also wanted to, I guess, like make something of myself or do something. And that was like eucalyptus. That was essentially my dream job at the time. Put a lot of energy into it. And I think after 3 years, it also grew so big that I just didn't feel like I was contributing as much anymore. I also thrive in early stage startups as well. So I think it was just a good time. Like it's always been something that I wanted to do. I didn't really just decide. I saved up for a long time.
It took a lot of planning.
Yeah, actually, because I'm not someone that actually has a lot of liquid cash on hand. So I couldn't really just take it whenever. So I actually saved up for like 6 to 9 months, made sure I had enough money for like my mortgage and, spending and travel and all that stuff I want to do. Yeah. And then I kind of decided just to take it.
Actually, I'm going to rewind for a second because I think a lot of people have heard the word sabbatical, but maybe they don't know what a sabbatical actually is.
So actually sabbaticals originated from the academic industry. So in academia, a lot of professors might do a sabbatical for a year. Typically they go to do a sabbatical, maybe they go to a different country, learn about different things that's kind of or semi-related to their field. But this whole idea of a year of rest, essentially, to kind of unwind from everything especially when you're working every single day, you sometimes get trapped in this bubble. And I think in academia, essentially, a lot of them take sabbaticals to expand their horizons. There's a lot of studies that show that people come back healthier, happier, and also with a more open mind. And so that might help with their field of research or something like that. So that's actually where the origins, I believe, come from for sabbaticals. And I think in recent years in like corporate world and tech, they came back in essentially as, I guess, like a extended break. Like you're not really using your annual leave. Some companies actually have a sabbatical policy. Like if you're there for 5 years, 10 years, then it's very likely that you want an extended break. I define a sabbatical is usually something that's like over 3 months. It's quite interesting for me. Everyone thought it was very long that I decided to take a year because I think for a lot of people, 3 months not working is a very long time.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty much what it is. And people do sabbaticals for different reasons: travel, learning things, career changes, simply taking a break. And I guess a sabbatical typically means that you could go back to your company if you wanted to. Yeah.
So it's like you don't get paid on the sabbatical, but you have the option, or like you kind of have this security blanket at the end of it where you're like, okay, I've done my thing, I've rested, I've recovered, and now I'm going to go back into a role that I don't have to like worry about job hunting for.
Exactly. Because it is meant to be a stress, like a reduced stressed break. So if you're always thinking about your job and what to do next, then that could be quite stressful.
Yeah. So how did you then approach talking to your leadership about like, hey, I'm going to take a sabbatical, like I'm making this decision?
I think there was 1 week at work where I was feeling a little bit directionless. And I'm one of those people that like need to resolve my problem. And I have a really good relationship with like the leadership team at Eucalyptus. So I always wanted to be as open as possible about how I'm feeling and all that kind of stuff. I just remember like it was a really rough week in terms of work and like not knowing what my life is and existential crisis. And I remember taking like a couple days off, actually like mental health break, to just reflect on like why I'm so unhappy and what I need right now. And pretty much as soon as I got back to work, or a couple of days later, I just chatted with the CEO and at a cafe, and I was like, hey, like, I don't know if I want to be here as long as, like, you know, for another few months. To be honest, I can't even think about being here for another year. I would like to take a sabbatical. And they were super supportive. I think they saw it coming. They knew that I probably wasn't as engaged as before. They definitely knew that I am definitely more of an early stage startup person.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was super, super supportive. I gave him like months and months in advance.
Okay.
So I think that made it a lot better.
You weren't like, I'm going on a sabbatical next week.
No, I would never do that.
Yeah,
I don't think it was the
so
right time. Yeah, I think I still had stuff to do there,
Yeah.
and I really wanted the company to be in a good place.
Yeah.
But I just had to get it out of my system. At least I had to tell someone. I couldn't be one of those people, at least for this company in particular, one that I cared so much about. I couldn't actually like quiet quit.
Yeah.
I wanted them to know that I am thinking about like an extended break. I'm like so burnt out as early as possible. And then I was like, I'm gonna think about taking a sabbatical in 4 months. I think I gave them 4 months notice. I was like, for another quarter, I'm gonna like focus on this, but after that, I'm gone. Yeah.
And then what did it take? Like, what are all the factors that came into planning for your sabbatical?
Money is the first one that comes to mind.
Yep.
But I guess before money, about like, I guess the main thing is like, how long do you want to take the sabbatical for? And what you sort of want to do. So I had to calculate the minimum amount I need to just like do nothing, like just survive, like eat and pay off my mortgage and my expenses. But then I also spent a lot of time planning at a high level what I wanted to do. So, or like knowing what I might want to do and making sure I had enough income or like money saved up to do that. So for example, I wanted to go back into art. So if I wanted to consider an art course, it will cost a couple $1,000s. So make sure to put that in. I definitely knew I wanted to travel. So I wanted to put that in as well as part of my financial planning.
Yep.
And I would say that's pretty much it. A lot of the stuff around like, you know, what the day-to-day of the sabbatical looks like, I kind of just learned it as I started it. But before the sabbatical, it was very much just save enough money, have a rough idea of what you want to do, like what you want to change. But to be honest, you can't, I found it really hard to even reflect on that stuff while working, I would say. Yeah. So that stuff kind of comes naturally in your first couple of weeks, I would say.
And I know like you had a plan, right, of an overarching kind of roadmap almost of what you were going to do across the year. Yeah. So what was that plan?
I had 3 phases.
Yeah, nice.
I hate myself.
A good roadmap always starts with phases.
I know, I hate myself. But you know what? Product management has really taught me how to plan my life to a fault. It's actually not a good thing. So don't follow this.
I have seen things on Jenny's Notion and it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a coping mechanism. It's really, I really envy the people that can just like wing it and just like feel what they want to do. I don't. I over rationalize. My 3 phases was, and I did a bit of research actually. I did a bit of research on like what other sabbaticals were like, how did they sort of do it, and this kind of followed what their suggestions were. Where essentially the first 3-4 months, you sort of just, it takes a long time to actually adjust to having free time, and so the first few months was essentially try everything, try to also do nothing and not have a plan, which was really, really hard, which is interesting. And essentially you're trying to focus on like thinking about like, okay, what do I actually want to do myself? Like without any external validation. And so the first month was really just like trying and understanding what I feel like doing. And that was actually a struggle in itself. A lot of people I talked to actually found the first couple of months really challenging. It's not as rosy because you're like, I feel so unproductive. I should be productive, but I shouldn't be. Like it's very against our nature.
Yeah.
And then I had a travel portion, which was really, really good. I think a lot of people actually recommend you traveling first.
Because it's almost like, did you take a week in the beginning or like a 2 weeks or something to just like do nothing almost and be like, okay, now I breathe and I think.
Yes. I think the good thing about traveling first is like you remove yourself from all the roles and responsibilities you have completely. And the whole focus of travel is to indulge. So you get thrown in the deep end, but imagine trying to indulge while you still have to do chores. You eventually just fill up your time with things I should do rather than things I want to do. Whereas travel is very much, I want to do this, so I will do this. So if I were to do this again, I would definitely travel first. But for like planning reasons, like my partner couldn't really take the time off, like I decided to do it in the middle. Essentially, once you do all of that, I guess, like at the last phase, which is where I am in now, you just start to focus. I start to focus on the stuff that I actually really enjoy doing. I think the good thing about travel, it allowed me to think about what I want for my future life. And then the last couple months is like trying to set the foundations to doing that. So like whether job hunting, setting up a routine that you want to keep while if you do go back to work, focusing on a few areas that you want to develop and goals. So I would say like at the beginning, I had no direction. I did a little bit of everything. And then now I'm only really focusing on like coding and making products. Health and all that kind of stuff has always been there.
Yeah.
And then finding a job.
Almost back to regular life again.
Yeah. I think for me, I was the interesting thing, and I think a lot of people that I talk to on sabbatical is like, we really want to bring as much of our sabbatical into our everyday life. And so a lot of us are thinking like, hey, could we do part-time work? Could we do like digital nomading? I think everyone's trying to retain that freedom.
Yeah.
Because once you taste that freedom, you're like, how do I savor this for as long as possible?
Because even though it's kind of like you're living your dream life for a year, but then you want to make your dream life your life.
Yeah. You're like, surely I can integrate this into my life.
Yeah. It does sound like such a dream though. Like going on a sabbatical is definitely something that I think I want to try in the future. So it's interesting hearing all these experiences.
Yeah. What would you do on your sabbatical?
I have no idea. I would travel, but then I'm the type of person, like I don't like flying. So
really?
I don't know how financially viable it is to travel a lot. Because if I fly, I'm like, I want to fly premium economy or business.
Ooh.
Like I can't cheap out on those things. So maybe I wouldn't be able to travel that much. I think I would do a lot of creative stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So like
clay making.
Maybe I'll make my own like clay business.
There we go.
Yeah. Sewing, photography, video, content, that sort of thing. Of that. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I've never really allowed myself yet to explore what I would do.
Well, the cool thing about it is like I feel like you're still doing the stuff that you're currently doing, but just more of it.
Yeah. Alongside work. And so I slowly wither away because I'm like, there's so much to do, so little time.
I think that's the thing. I think A lot of hobbies are really hard to enjoy when you're stressed, I think.
Yeah.
You're like, should I really be doing this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you think actually about traditionally a sabbatical is something that someone does like after 20 years of working, right? But a lot more now people are taking sabbaticals when they're younger, like in their 20s or before you hit 30, that sort of thing. So what do you think of that, like, I guess, more recent change in how we approach sabbaticals?
I think there's a lot of people that are trying to do early retirement, right? But usually early retirement means like 40 or something.
Yeah.
And for me, if I want to have a kid, I don't think I would ever really consider a sabbatical because money now has a different purpose. Like money is going to help with their education. So for me, it actually made sense that I really don't think I'll have another long break until my kids grow old. And that could be like 30 years from now when they're like self-sufficient, essentially. By then, I'm already having health problems now. Who knows what kind of health problems I'll have then? Like, I definitely wouldn't be as active. So in my mind, I actually thought before 30 is probably the best time to take a break because you have a lot of disposable income. You're not tied to aging parents too much. You don't have too many responsibilities in terms of your own family. And you're healthy. I also feel like it's so important because it allows you to make better career decisions as well. Like, I think it scares me to consistently always work and never take a break, especially now that I have had it because, gosh, like when you take a break and you have free time, you manage to make so many different like decisions in your life that I don't think you would be if you're like always constantly in like the grind and like the 9 to 5. So it's really cool. I really love that more young people are taking sabbaticals early because I feel like they can make some pretty interesting decisions after their break as well.
I mean, the other time that you get a big break is when you have a baby, right? You get like a year off.
I guess, but then you're like taking care of someone else.
Then that's work as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a different kind of work.
I know. My philosophy now is actually like to have as much fun as possible before I'm 30. And then that way I feel like I can wholeheartedly dedicate myself to my family for the next like 15, 20 years. Because I feel like women just have this like unfortunate biological clock.
Yeah.
And it's always like, hey, and it's really annoying that your biological clock aligns with your peak career as well. I think I'm very lucky that I feel like my career peaked early so then I can just chill out a little. I'm very happy. I find it tougher for a lot of women. 30 is when, they're probably like at the peak of their career, but also at the same time, your fertility declines starting from that point, which is one of the roughest truths of life. So actually, like, I think my fertility and my decision to have a family affected my decision to take a sabbatical a lot.
You've deserved it. So then would you say like there's a recommended time for like young people to take a sabbatical, like after 5 years or something? Or, like if someone was like, I want to take a sabbatical after working for 2 to 3 years, what would you say?
I don't know, to be honest. Yeah,
I guess maybe if you worked hard.
I mean, honestly, you probably don't even need to work hard to take a sabbatical. I think it's just for me. I think I'm just happy with where my career went. So I feel like I can go into my sabbatical with a good mindset.
Yeah.
Honestly, take a break whenever you want.
It's essentially like a work gap year.
Yeah, like some people take, after they graduate uni, they take a whole year off as well. And I think that's really great. I feel like they probably make better decisions as well because they've taken this break and they spent that time to focus on themselves. And sometimes if you're like just really burnt out after 2 to 3 years of work, because I always feel like after uni, the first couple of years of work is a big adjustment. So even if you take 3 months off after that, just to reflect on your life and like your choices, it's actually a good thing. I think especially early in your career, you should be making different career decisions that put you in the happiest place, like in the happiest place in terms of financial needs and fulfillment. And I think sometimes jumping quickly from job to job doesn't allow you to have that sort of reflection as well. In those 3 months, you might even like try to intern somewhere if you don't care about money at that point. Yeah, like I actually like volunteered for a game studio during my sabbatical because that's like always a career that I was curious about. And then I did it, and then I learned like, oh, okay, like I still really like games. I want to create a game, but I'm more interested in doing it all myself rather than like working in a company to do it. So that was a really cool insight that I wouldn't be able to get if I was working full time. So yeah, I don't think a lot of us get enough opportunity to play around with different careers, unfortunately.
I actually just talked to someone in an episode this season
cool.
who was also advocating for the same thing around like having different experiences early on in your career. So you learn like, what do you like, what don't you like, rather than getting into something and then trying to like really push for like even jumping companies, you're still in the same industry, just like trying to jump the roles,
flavor,
like, moving your career ahead. But instead, it's around like trying different industries. And
my friend, she was like in customer success in startups and stuff, and she ended up doing. She's trying to be a producer at a podcast, actually.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, she took acting classes. She took all these different things. I think she really wants to go into like media and stuff like that. But
does she want to produce this podcast?
I mean, perhaps. But I think, probably,
gotcha.
She wanted to start a podcast as well. Like, I think it's just, I don't think she would have done it if it wasn't for her sabbatical. And I don't know what she's going to do, whether she would continue that path, but the fact that you're able to do that while you're young is really, really good. Obviously, if you never have family and you don't have other obligations, you could still do that later in your life. But I think when you get older, at least for me, I will have aging parents. Hopefully I'll have a family. Those kind of decisions are harder to make because you feel like you're sacrificing a lot. Unless I'm retired and I'm financially free. Unless somehow, which is my plan, somehow I don't need to care about money anymore.
It's weird because I feel like when you don't care about money as well at that stage, you kind of let yourself do whatever and you're happy with it. Like, for example, you could pick up an internship. But right now, because you're not financially free, if I were to go get an internship, I'd be like, what? Like, that's not worth my time.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get paid the amount I should. But once you're in that stage of your life, which is much older, you're kind of like, okay, I'm just doing this for the fun of things now. Like, I'm doing this for the experience rather than a little bit of the ego of like, oh, I expect to be at this stage in my life right now kind of thing.
Yeah, I know. And I think also in your early/late 30s, a lot of your friends are still hustling as well. So that's that feeling of falling behind, which I totally get.
Yeah. So let's go through each of the stages of your last year, actually.
Yeah.
You said the first phase of your roadmap was going broad. So what were the things that you went broad in?
So I think before I started my sabbatical, I wrote like a list down of all the things I want to do. I was actually reading a article that described it as curiosity constipation, which I thought was so funny because it felt like that. I felt like I had so many things I really want to do in life and I just never had the time. Like time was always my excuse. And I was like, now that I have time, I don't have an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
So it was stuff like learning how to swim, doing art again, coding, which I stuck with, which was really, really cool. Teaching. One of my favorite jobs I've ever had was being a tutor. And I really wanted to go back there again and see if this is a viable career path for me.
Yeah.
And just a lot of basic life skills. Like I just never was bothered to learn how to cut a chicken. Like that is so random, like a whole chicken.
Yeah.
Have you ever cut a whole chicken?
No.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Exactly. There's so many life skills we probably don't have because we've just like bought convenience. But like cut chicken is so much more expensive than a whole chicken that you cut yourself. So I just learned how to like, when I'm cooking, I try to just do things that's not really from scratch, but like, I was like, I was so happy that I was like learning how to cut a chicken, learning new recipes, figuring out how to make coffee better, like all of these things that will never give me money in any form.
Yeah.
But I just felt so happy that I had the time to try and do it. Yeah. So just like basic life skills like that, like actually like cutting a chicken was a core achievement for me.
What's your key lesson in cutting a chicken?
I don't remember. I haven't cut a chicken since then.
It's somewhere in your memory palace, but
Yeah, but I
only
feel
when you
good
need
that I know
access.
that if I ever needed to, I don't need to rely on my husband to do it.
Yeah.
I can cut a chicken myself.
All right. Nice.
Yeah, sorry. No key lesson there.
What did you learn overall from going abroad?
The coolest thing is like if you can do anything that you want. Like if you had the time and the right energy and the right mindset for it, you're able to do some of the hardest things that you think you never could do. Like for me, that was like swimming, right? Like I don't think I would ever pick up swimming while working because actually it's really hard, at least when you're older, to do things that you're not good at. I think most people try to like find alternatives, use money as a way to, solve that problem. Like a lot of people, especially young people, don't cook nowadays because, you can pay those meals and stuff, right? And I think they find it really intimidating that cooking can be really intimidating because you're like learning how to cut like vegetables, all of these basic building blocks that you have to learn. But I actually think if you have the time and that's something you really, really want to do, you can do it. So it really increased my confidence with just like learning any life skill that I have. Same thing with coding. That's one of those things that I just never thought I would be good at. And honestly, the first like 3 months is like even longer. Like the first few months of like learning something hard, it's just so there's no gratification at all.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Like,
But I feel like every like small improvement that you make is actually like the progress is a lot quicker in those first few stages, right? Because anything that you learn is a huge improvement from the last time that you knew it.
Yeah, if you have that kind of great growth mindset. But for me, I am not a disciplined person. I am not someone that I don't stick to things that I'm not good at. Sometimes I think I chose product management because I was naturally good at it.
Yeah.
But if I tell you what I love, it'd probably be like design. But I know I'm never going to be like the best designer. Or I could be if I put the work in.
Yeah.
So in my first phase, I decided because I had time to put the work in. And so this year was very much about like, even if you don't build a feature that week, because my issue is I expect myself to build a certain feature through coding that week.
Yeah.
I put in 8 hours and I still haven't built that feature because I'm stuck. And I'm like, I haven't made progress. So right now I'm actually measuring like how many hours I put in rather than what actually comes out. Because sometimes you just can't debug it, right? Like sometimes it just won't happen.
Yeah, that's such like a reversal of classic like what they recommend, like the healthy way of doing things. It's like, it's not about the output, it's about the outcome. Whereas in your case, what motivates you here is like, it's actually the output, not the outcome.
I actually think that's, I think I could do that. I could start looking into the outcome once I'm good enough to understand how to best. But sometimes you just need to give yourself time. Like,
you got to put the hours in.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like, it's good to have a goal. Like I would still have a goal of like trying to launch something by the end of the year, but I'll be a lot more generous about myself and I'll still be proud of the effort I put in.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm trying to change this year, which is like be proud of the effort, which is very opposite of everything that we learn, which is like, hey, you should be proud of the output, the outcome. But I just really wanted to put effort in because I do think if you're not good at something, persistence will win.
I think you mentioned in like one of your early newsletters that one of the hard things was because you're doing this sabbatical yourself, that discipline is really hard to like keep yourself going and like keep yourself almost on track.
Yeah.
Because there's no one you're really accountable to apart from yourself.
You just disappoint yourself, which is fine.
How do you gain that discipline or how do you keep yourself motivated?
I have so many things I trialed. So at first and this is great because it actually allows you to realize what motivates you. So I realized because I can't, there are some people that are very good at keeping like, some of them just love reaching goals. And so that alone is enough motivation for them to do it. For me, I really like working in a team, which is a new insight.
Okay.
Because as a PM, you get really fatigued with people, right?
Yeah.
But I realized in the absence of people, I don't have the right motivation because it gets lonely. No one can celebrate this, little button that I created with me, So I tried and I'm still doing it. fortnightly or weekly sessions with people. So actually my solution is to find someone like an accountability buddy. And we essentially just demo our work and our learnings to each other.
So cute.
And actually that is so fun. It's so much more fun than just like doing something yourself and you're like, I am proud that I know how to do freestyle now. But like if someone knew how hard I worked on how I did freestyle, they'll celebrate that with me. Other things, I've also like gamified my goal system. So like I found it really hard to treat myself if I don't feel like I deserved it. So for example, like let's say I really want to go get a massage. But what have I done to really deserve my massage? When I'm working, sure, I've had a hard week. I deserve my massage. But when I'm not working, I've just been like lying in bed all day. Like, why do I need a massage? And I also have no money. So like even more, I'm like, I feel like I should do something. So I've essentially created like a system for myself where like, if I hit these 3 goals, I'll earn certain points. I can accumulate these points and redeem it in my own reward store. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm actually building an app for it.
I was just about to say, like, this should be an app or something. Like
I am actually building an app for it because it was such a system that I was so happy with.
Yeah.
And I'm still using it. So I think, number 1 was accountability buddy, celebrating your wins with someone. And then you guys could be working on separate things. It could just be like, hey, you want to, if we did it together, it'll be like, oh, this is what my podcast is happening this week. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome, Rachel. And then I could just be telling you about my like coding journeys and stuff like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And then also like just trying to find a way to reward yourself in a way that makes you happy. Yeah.
I love that. I did actually see your post on the accountability buddy and like the sprint system. And it was really cool how you adopted, I guess, like software practices into your own life. And essentially what you were doing is you would have like a sprint. You'd be tracking sprints, which is like a week of time where you have some kind of like maybe goal of a project that you're working on. And you would basically catch up and demo what you achieved at the end of the sprint with someone else, like a friend, your accountability buddy. And so I was like, oh my God, I should try that. That's so cool. But the only thing was we didn't manage to have our first meeting.
How come?
I don't know. We just never got to it. And then I'm like, I still want to try this, but maybe I'll do it with Lucas.
Do you think that would happen with I don't think I could ever do that with my partner.
Really? Okay. I don't know. Maybe I need to figure out.
Literally, I suggested it to him. He's like, no, find someone else. I'm like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I think we're both motivated right now to do like a lot of projects that are outside of work and aren't necessarily connected, because he just got a 3D printer as well. So I think he wants to like start doing a bunch of that stuff. And then obviously I have all these projects always going on.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you have to find some. Actually, the really hard part.
Someone who's committed as well.
Yes. Especially because everyone's working. I find the hardest thing about doing projects with people, and I'm the same, if I'm working, I probably will deprioritize my project, number 1, if I'm stressed. But yeah, I think the hardest part is actually finding someone that will stick with it with you.
Awesome. And then I guess you moved into stage 2, which was all the travel. So tell me about where you've been.
Yeah, I went to Europe, a continent that I have never been to, which was really, really cool. Yeah. And I also went to Japan, which is one of my favorite countries, and I've never really been since I was 18. So it's been a while. And I did that all with my husband, which was really cool. It was good. I think the main thing for me was just like the clarity that I had about reflecting on what I wanted to do in life, just because I was like away from all like responsibility and distractions, I suppose. Because I think when you're in Australia, everyone's just like telling you a little bit about what you should do, and no one's telling you any of that while you're like traveling. So
that's true. Did you feel like you found yourself?
No.
No one ever finds themselves.
No, I don't think so.
We're still lost.
I don't think so. I think like, I don't know. I'm too engrossed with like my tourist activities to find myself. True. Yeah. I don't know. I'm curious. I'm curious at how people, I think maybe if I solo traveled, maybe I would do a lot of soul searching because I just have so much time by myself.
Yeah. And so in Europe, where did you go?
I went to London. Oh, that's not really Europe, I guess, but London, Switzerland, France. We spent most of our time in Italy and Greece. Yeah. Which was awesome. I like what you're doing with your plate though.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
That's so cool.
I was trying to make a flower, but
you don't have enough petals.
Yeah, I don't have enough.
I wonder if you
Oh,
could-
use your offcuts.
Yeah, you use me. Have it.
Thank you.
I'm trying to subtract
Okay.
from mine. So like one of the things I really want to do, and it's actually still on that list that I created, my curiosity constipation list, is what I'm calling it now,
Yep.
was to do solo travel. And after Europe, I realized I'm just not a very brave person.
Yeah.
I like comfort. I get scared quite easily. I think maybe also traveling as an Asian woman, when you stick out like a sore thumb,
It's scary.
it's scary.
Yeah. I think even just traveling as a female in general was
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
by yourself.
Yeah, and then if I wanted to do
Dangerous.
solo travel in, a predominantly white place, I just feel like I'm alone in many ways.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I've deprioritized that solo travel desire, because I realized I'm like, why am I doing it for? Like, I'm doing travel because I want to see the world.
Mm.
I find it so much better to share that moment with someone than to share it with myself. But if I do solo travel, I think I would do it if I want to do like an art trip or like a themed trip.
Yeah.
I don't really need a find myself trip. I've been pretty
Yeah.
solo this year, I'm pretty lonely in my sabbatical most days.
It's time to do some travel with other people.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
it's still on the list. I would really like to maybe do a retreat by myself for a week or something.
Yeah.
But only when I need it. I just still haven't found the need, other than like it feels like something I should do,
Yeah.
but I don't really need to do it at the moment.
Yeah. You definitely also want to try out like short-term kind of experience first.
Yeah.
Because some people realize very quickly that they hate solo traveling.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you're not like an extrovert that can't make friends
Yeah.
along the way.
I would go 8 months and then not make a single friend, I reckon.
Me too.
Or not talk to anyone that I don't know. Because like I'm suspicious of them as well.
Yeah, it's a dangerous world.
Yeah.
Who knows what'll happen?
Exactly. And I totally resonate with when you said like you don't have that experience to share with someone, because I've been on those solo trips and I'm seeing something and I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm here and I'm seeing this great
I was like,
thing.
no, can you see this thing as well?
Yeah.
Like, no one can share this moment with me.
And no one's there to take photos of me.
Selfie stick.
I have to take photos myself.
Yeah, I know, it's not. And then you're just like stressing about everything yourself. But I do think like the independent, like, the feeling of like, oh, I can do it, I'm independent,
Yeah.
is a nice feeling.
It is. And then I guess like when you came back, you entered your third phase, which is where you are
Yeah.
now.
Right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Coding a lot. You said swimming.
Yeah, I think my life is not as exciting as my first 1 and 2 phases. But I feel really good with the routine that I've built, and I feel like I know what my priorities lie, because I think in the first couple of months I was just like, I could do everything, but then I should chill. Like, there's just that constant fighting within yourself on like what you should be doing, what really, really matters. And so I feel really good finally after 9 months about where I'm at and what I want to do for the next 3 to 5 years, which is something that I don't think I really had an idea of.
Yeah.
Like, actually, I think on your earlier question, like when should people take a sabbatical? Probably when they're lost and they don't know what their like 3 to 5 year life really looks like. So yeah, I feel right now it's mostly just kind of routine. I'm learning how to swim, learning how to code, doing a little bit of like contract work here and there to get a bit of income, spending time with friends, doing a bit more travel. And so I think I kind of know what are the pieces of my life that I want to continue integrating. Once I go back to work, that would make me happy or content or fulfilled.
How do you feel like that fell into place? Or like when did that moment click for you then?
I would say, I don't think it's really like one moment. I think when you have so much time to reflect by yourself, you're like learning something about yourself every single week. So I think once I came back from holiday, I think I had a different level of clarity. Like, let's say if at the beginning of the sabbatical, I was like confused, frantic, no idea what I should be doing. And then slowly, I was able to reach a certain point of clarity. That travel portion really helped a lot because you just got time to think and reflect and you don't have any of those distractions. You'd be really surprised. You'd think that because I'm not working. I have no distractions. But I can't help but look on LinkedIn. I can't help but like have these conversations with my friends, learning about how much they're making and other jobs they're looking for. I can't help but like when I have those interactions, think about what I'm doing with my life all the time. Especially that's like the core thing that I'm trying to solve at that time. But I think that travel portion just like helped me realize like, oh, I really value freedom. I really want to continue just saying yes to as many trips as possible with my friends while I can. But it's hard because when you're like, you know, in the grind, you just keep wanting like, I should be making more money. I could yeah, exactly. All of those kind of come up. So I think like that after traveling and then spending a bit of time by myself, reflecting and talking to a few people again, I feel like I'm at that moment of clarity, but it's always a work in progress, I think.
Yeah. I think one of the big things when you do take a sabbatical as well is you're knowingly I guess people say you're putting your career on hold, right? Because that's a year that you are not in the industry. Or like the way I think about it is if I take a sabbatical, then I'm not going to get like promoted at the same time as all these other people who started with me, and like I'm going to fall behind compared to them. So I'm sure you kind of had to think about that when you decided to take a sabbatical, and what made you then just be like, whatever, like I need to do my own thing.
For me, I was very lucky. I think I had a goal, you know, after I graduated that one day I would like to try be an important part of a startup that does well. And so I think part of the reason why I was lost was because I did do that. And I'm very proud that I did that. I just don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
I also got lucky that I try to be a head of product and I realized I don't want to do this. But in order for you to kind of progress in most companies, if you want to be like a CPO, like let's say you take the hierarchical path towards success or whatever.
Yeah.
You do need to continue down that path of like leading, doing processes, you know, working at bigger and bigger companies. And for me, I just knew that. And, you know, the good thing about like trying different things is like you get to cut down that path for yourself completely. So I actually, through that process, I accepted that I won't have that hierarchical kind of vertically up path that other people will. So I think I've made peace with that for the most part, that I won't do that anymore. And, you know, my friends who do become like, you know, CEOs or like become really, really successful in the future, that's a path that they've chosen.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. It's really hard. Sometimes you hear, you know, what they might be making and you know what you could make.
Yeah.
It sucks. So I think it's just a constant battle. But I think I'm just lucky that I know for myself that I don't like it. So I would say like anyone that is curious should try it and just like be honest with themselves whether they want to continue that path. Because I think all of us could be, you know, but could be, you know, rising higher, but everything is at a cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of deep reflection to get to this point, I feel like.
Well,
or just like almost knowing yourself and
I think it's to a fault. Sometimes I'm very jealous of people that just like don't overthink.
Yeah.
And they can just like make decisions, because like these decisions actually don't matter that much at the end of the day. Like if you're happy, most decisions are good, right? Like you're learning something, you're earning money still anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely think I'm guilty of like trying to optimize my life a bit too much. So it's actually not a great thing. Yeah, what do you think? Do you feel like do you have those friends that, or like people that you know that are like quite simple in nature, but like beautifully simple in the way that they think about life? Or do you think everyone's a bit of an overthinker?
I think I've surrounded myself by a lot of overthinkers, but there's probably a good mix in there. I mean, like people who come off confident, maybe they are overthinking, but I just don't know it.
Yeah.
I think it is still, when you remove ego from the equation, life tends to be a lot more simple.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And you're doing things for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like for the people you care about.
Exactly.
I do also want to dig into the financials of like a sabbatical, because that's a huge component to deciding whether you do it or not. It's like, can you even do it? So how did you plan for that? And you said you were saving up a lot beforehand. Like, how do you even know how much you need to save up?
I guess it's like, it's not too hard because I think if you know how much you've historically been spending, you just try to match that. Like for me, I just needed to pay my mortgage, I know how much like strata costs for my apartment, all of those things. So those are kind of the baseline financials. And then I kind of had an idea of like how much comfortable spending in a week looks like for me. And then I just estimated like travel costs. And then I wrote a list down of all the things that I might want to do, like exercise classes, all those kind of things. And I added like 15 or 20% on top of it, essentially. And so that I have a rough number. For me, I definitely felt like finance was a big stressor, probably the only stressor of my sabbatical. So it's not a bad thing. So I did actually take on tutoring jobs. I took on because the Europe trip was really expensive, more expensive with inflation than my original estimations were. So I took on a few hours a week of contract work, for example, to kind of make up for that or feel more comfortable with that. So yeah, that, and then as a result, I mean, the downside is I saved pretty much everything that I wasn't spending into my sabbatical for those 6 months, which meant because I normally put in investments, I normally put it into other things. So I'm quite behind on my original financial targets of my life. But that's just a sacrifice I had to make, I think, where my savings is just on it's just standby. It hasn't grown for the last probably the last 2 years actually.
Yeah. But I guess a whole year of expenses and travel and things like that, that's a lot of money as well, right? So
it is, yeah.
I guess then saving up for it, how should people prepare?
Yeah, I think also just deciding how long you can do. I think that's the main thing. I guess for me, I was lucky enough to be okay, if I do 6 months, I can probably spend a year of expenses. I'm also lucky enough that I don't think my living costs are too high as well compared to other people. And I think I was quite desperate for the sabbatical. That's why I spent, I literally saved everything that wasn't my spending money into my sabbatical, which accelerated it quite a lot. But obviously, if you still have financial goals, if you want to buy a house, maybe you want to do a 25% split. And I think people would be surprised with how little money you could get to just have a 3-month break or a 6-month break, because everyone's financial situation is different.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to be able to do a year. But I don't know, how much money do you think that you would need in order to take a month off or 2 months off? It's not that much.
Depends on the person.
Depends on the person. Well, I think if you're living in a very expensive place, maybe consider moving.
I feel like I'm a saver.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I look at my credit card and I'm like, where did all my money go? How did I spend that much money? I feel like I bought nothing, but it's all gone.
Yeah, look, I think anyone that takes a sabbatical needs to get on top of their finances first. Or be aware of what money you actually need. But also I think naturally people spend more when they have an income. So you're just naturally not going to want to have those things when you don't have an income. I spent a lot of money. I probably spent 30% more money just because I had a salary, because I knew I could.
Yeah.
And because I always deserved it because I had a rough week at work. But you kind of also replace a lot of things that you normally spend while you're on sabbatical. So for example, I walk a lot more because I can't afford $10 Opal fees per day. What?
Fair enough.
On top of my coffee?
Yeah.
So I've stopped spending money on coffee because I make it at home.
Yeah.
I try to walk everywhere. I take trains off peak hours. Just to save that 20%.
Yeah, the beauty of not having to commute during a 9 to 5.
Exactly. When you have time, you cook. You don't buy food. So actually all of these things you used to pay money for, you don't pay it anymore. So actually it's actually a lot better. Because I think when you have a salary, I'll pay for the convenience.
Yeah, that's a really interesting thought actually.
I think a lot of my friends actually I'm the atypical one of planning to save. A lot of my friends just had a lot of savings. Yeah, I don't have savings.
No.
Most of my assets are not liquid, so I had to save. But actually, a lot of my friends never did any planning.
What's the community like actually of people taking sabbaticals? Because I feel like you know a lot of people now who maybe are in the same kind of
because we're lonely and we need
phase
each
as you.
other.
Yeah. Did you meet them during your sabbatical or did you know them before and then they took it?
So I remember I did my post about taking a sabbatical, and then 2 or 3 friends that I knew, from past things was like, I'm also taking a sabbatical. And I'm like, wait, what? Really? And so all of these people that are like took a sabbatical quietly, like kind of revealed themselves up to me. And then so I already had like 2 or 3 people from the first day that I took a sabbatical that I could just hang out with and catch up with. And then I got into a few communities. So I think because I had time, I still got into some startup communities. And then I introduced myself to some people that I connected, and they essentially introduced me to other people on sabbatical. I also think like the rough thing with people getting laid off this year is that a lot of them are taking forced sabbaticals.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't have another opportunity lined up, so they're taking leave anyway.
Yeah.
So I was really lucky that this was the year I took it, because there was just so many people that voluntarily took it or involuntarily took it as well. So yeah, it's been an amazing community, because typically when I'm working, I think a lot of the connections or the new acquaintances that I make is typically through like, we're both working at startups. Let's like brainstorm together and we talk about career and like how to solve problems. But all the people I talk to about sabbatical is like, what are the hobbies that you're doing?
I love that.
What do you want out of life?
Yeah.
What philosophies are you following? How do we have a happier, healthier life? Like, it's really cool because I have these conversations with different people now, and they're very much about like, what are you working on? Oh, I'm working on coding. I'm working on my relationship. I'm working on myself. I'm working on health. Like, how refreshing is that? Like, I love these conversations. They energize me a lot more than,
what are you doing at work right now? Yeah.
Yeah, what's your woes at work?
Yeah.
So they've been a very precious community to me, and I'm so grateful for them, because I can just like go to them like, do you like, I feel so guilty not having a great time on sabbatical. Do you? And they're like, no, I felt that too. Yeah. So I definitely actively reached out for people because I felt lost at some moments. But also everyone just introduced everyone to each other, because like I think all of us sabbatical people are so open to meeting other people that also just have time and hang out as well.
Yeah. Are there any like specific groups or things, or was it events where you met other people in the community? Because you said like you went to some startup things.
Oh, those things were just purely for startups. But
Okay.
I just told everyone that I was unemployed there, or like I was not working.
Love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And they just connected me with people. Because like the sabbatical people that I met, and the coolest thing about it is like they're all from different walks of life. I met people who I frankly just don't think I would meet if not for my sabbatical.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the beauty of it is like just seeing so many different people with so many different perspectives. And we don't talk about tech at all. Like, you don't need to. We're just like unified by the topic of like trying to find a happy life.
I love that. It's like you're way more in touch with life. You're out of your bubble of like work is so stressful and everything is so hard right now, and you get perspective.
Yeah. And the cool thing about it all is like these people that I met aren't the most like they're not the most visible people, like maybe on social media or like LinkedIn. They're just like quietly like focusing on themselves. And I wouldn't have met them if not for like these mutual connections that we had.
How did you get over, you know how you're saying like sometimes you just feel like you're bonding on the fact that, hey, I might not be having the best time on my sabbatical. Like I think there's a pressure because you're taking a sabbatical, you're taking time off. It's a constrained period of time almost as well. It feels like I've got a year, I need to make the most of it. And sometimes there may be periods where you're just kind of like, I'm not doing anything, or like I'm bored, I feel like I'm not being productive. How do you get over those feelings?
Good question, Rachel. If I was honest, I think I had like much grander visions on my sabbatical. I was hoping that I'd be like, I've released a product that makes like pays off my mortgage by now.
Yeah.
But it's like very contradictory to the other goals I have, which is like chill out, enjoy life, like all that kind of stuff. I think every time, I think the biggest issue is like I just had so many things I wanted to do, And I eventually just like narrowed it down to like one or two things that really, really matter. And I think I resolved it through talking to a lot of people that also has similar issues and just realizing that I don't want to be doing this if I'm stressed. Like that's the main metric for me. I was like, as long as my week feels good to me, then I am happy, but I shouldn't be stressed about it. I should be a healthy amount of stress. Like I want to feel happy that I've done stuff at the end of the week, but I don't want to go overboard and stress out. So I had that's why I had those like goal systems in place where like I only have 1 or 2 goals per week.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you know, when you're working, you might have like daily tasks that you have to like tick off every single day. Yeah. And I just created enough structure for myself to like still do stuff that I feel like doing and not force myself to do. And I'm just like, okay, as long as I hit like 80% or like 70% of my goals. I've also the thing that also helped a lot was this is not the only time in my life to do all the things that I want to do. I think I started my sabbatical thinking, I only have 1 year to have fun. Once I start to work, I'm not going to happen. I'm actively trying to make sure that like whatever job that I choose next will still allow me to savor all the things that I love the most about my sabbatical.
It's like just because it ends after a year doesn't mean all the things you love, like all your happiness ends. It continues on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think you realize you just really need it. You know, your life that you were living before wasn't that bad and you just need a few things to enhance it and tweak a little bit and that you're already happy with the progress. Like, I don't think a sabbatical will like solve all your problems and, you know, make you happy for the rest of your life, but it's going to eliminate the things that you hated and then you're going to add the things that you like from your sabbatical into your future.
So what's in your future?
I really want to continue building my own thing. I don't know if you know much about like the indie hacker movement.
No, tell me more.
So essentially there's like this movement where there's a lot of people that essentially make a lot of different products and those products might not be like VC backed companies that's like earning like you know, valued at $1 billion. At most they're really just like paying a portion of a salary. And these products are essentially, you know, people bootstrapping, so like not getting any funding. They're essentially building things on the side. Eventually they'll grow to have some sort of income for, you know, 1 or 2 people, like a team of 1 or 2 people. And these people essentially focus on their lives just like building new things that they're excited about, but also earns money. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do is like ship things that even if it makes like $10 a month or something. Hopefully my next thing will be $20 a month. Hopefully
it accumulates.
Exactly, it accumulates. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do for the next couple of years. I never thought I'd be able to say that because I just never thought I'd make such progress with coding. I'm still not a good coder, but like ChatGPT helps a lot. And so I think for me, I really want to continue building things myself, seeing if I can make a living through those things. And if not, like, that's okay. I'm happy that I've tried it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not just for me. But obviously I would like to still, I still need a job realistically to do that. So it's about discipline in that point of view then. Like it's about, hey, can I still carve the energy out to do something after work or like on the weekends to help me with that kind of life in the future? I think the whole philosophy of indie hacking is like, you know, ownership of your own time, flexibility, being able to work on stuff that you like. I think one of the coolest things when you're building a product, especially, you know, you would know this, where like when you're a product manager, you don't get to do the delighters. You don't get to do a lot of the fun things that you would do.
You've got to really justify.
Yeah, every feature needs to make money, improve a metric, really be valuable, which is the right thing to do for a business. But there's this creative freedom that you just don't have when you're working for someone else. And so I think it's just been really fun to like brainstorm with friends about like ideas that you might not even really brainstorm about in a workplace because it might be so ridiculous or high risk. So yeah, I think that's also just another really cool part about that like indie hacker movement.
I think those are the things though that nowadays a lot of the newer products do really well, like incorporating those small delighters. Like I think Figma does it really well. arc as well, I think,
Yeah.
has some really nice elements where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that was really cool how they did that. But had they ever justify like someone putting it on a roadmap? Which they probably didn't have to. Like it was just, we need these things, and those things make people fans.
Yeah, I think it's a different generation of products, which is really exciting. So I think more and more there's a huge focus on UX and like on a different level. Like I think a lot of people really have a higher expectation of how how seamless the experience is and all of these delighted moments that these products give.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty exciting time.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to leave people with?
I really, really recommend people to take, and it doesn't have to be something so grand as a sabbatical, but I think a lot of us, when we take breaks, it's usually like holidays. But holidays, 3 weeks is actually, I used to think 3 weeks is a long time for a break. But for me, when you get bored and when you have so much time on your hands, you just become a different person, or you consider things that you never would consider, like, you know, for example, like walking for 60 minutes, and you find little joys in that in life as well. So I really recommend people taking, like, you know, if a year sounds very overwhelming, even like 3 months off could be some of the most impactful things that you could do for your life and for yourself, and just enabling yourself to have that time to learn something about yourself that you would never really learn about because you just have so much noise around you. I don't think people realize how much noise they have around them that dictates what they do. And taking a step away from that is just so important for any young person, because I think we just live in such a high-paced life nowadays. So yes, I'm very much for sabbaticals and for breaks in general. Yeah.
Hustle culture has been a very real thing in the last few years.
Yeah,
few years.
And you could just be like, hey, like you quit your job and you just take 3 months off.
I'll be thinking about planning my one then.
Good. I'm excited.
We'll see.
Yeah. I reckon, I can imagine you just like, you know, going full time on all these things that you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
So many different creative avenues to explore.
Yes. Not enough time to do it all.
Not enough time.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. And I really love this little clay thing that I'm doing, which I didn't really do much, but it was kind of
You get something out of it as well.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And thank you everyone for listening. Remember to join us every Wednesday for the sugar, the spice, and everything that's nice in life with the Bliss Bakery. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See you.